So today and for the next couple of days, Josh and I are heading to Perisher, which is a snowfield in New South Wales, so we can review the DJI Osmo Action. Let's go!
One of the problems we're finding already with shooting with the Osmo is that there's a massive lag from, if I spin it around, it just flipped over.
So we've just arrived at Perisher and we're going to take the DJI Osmo Action up the slopes and we're going to see how it goes. But if you don't know what a DJI Osmo Action is, it's basically DJI's answer to the GoPro. So like the GoPro, the Osmo Action can film 4K video up to 60 frames a second. It can do slow motion in full HD up to 240 frames a second. And it's like any other action camera, so you've got the same waterproofing, freeze proofing, and shock proofing as well. So it's quite durable if you're going to be taking it underwater, knocking around on the slopes, or basically onto your travels. Now, what I really like about the Osmo Action is the design of the camera. So you've got a really large rear LCD, a awesome front LCD for you to be able to see yourself or basically frame anything from the front. And then one of my most loved features about this is the filter actual thread on the camera. So the GoPro, I've used the Hero 4, the Hero 7, Hero 5, and to attach filters onto it, it was pretty annoying because it's basically just a slot on and you weren't really sure if it was going to be tight or if it's going to fall off or not, whereas the Osmo Action uses a screw in. In the box, it also comes with a protective clear filter, so you can protect your lens against all those hard falls or any other scratches that would go onto the lens otherwise. On the side of the Osmo Action, you've got your USB-C port for charging and transfer, and what I really love is that it's got the micro SD port on the side and you don't have to access it through the battery door at the bottom. Speaking of the battery, the Osmo Action has a full solid battery that slots all the way in from the bottom, so it's not annoying and janky and you don't really have to deal with doors as such. It just slots straight in and still keeps the waterproofing of the camera. So now we're going to take the DJI Osmo Action up to the slopes for a test run. Okay, so let's go through the buttons of the Osmo Action. So you've got your standard power button, you've got your record button as well, and then there's this button on the side called QS, and it allows you to quickly switch. So if you hold it, it'll swap from the back screen to the front screen, and also on top of that, it will give you access to a quick menu. So if you know you like custom recording settings, you can just save it into that menu, you just press it and then it will automatically jump to that. Now, one thing Josh and I have noticed is that the Osmo Action has a lot of lag. So I've updated the Osmo Action to the latest firmware as of the 1st of August 2019, and it still faces a lot of lag issues. So basically what happens is when you move the camera, the recording on the live view at the back doesn't sync up with your movement, and it's about, I would say, a 1 second or so delay until it catches up. And this is really prominent in the lower frames per second. So if you're filming around 25 or 24 frames per second, it's quite prominent. But if you're filming around 50, there is still a bit of lag, not as much, but it is a bit annoying. When we use our GoPro Hero 7s, we don't really have that problem, no matter if it's shooting in slow-mo or in the lower frame rates. However, in saying that, most of the time, if you're doing action stuff like this, you won't really pay attention too much to that lag. But I can see this being annoying for people who are doing kind of like interviews or vlogging.
There we go. Alright, so we're going to try a few different modes. We're going to test out the slow motion, which is 240 frames per second. We're going to try how good the RockSteady is, So we're gonna go RockSteady on and RockSteady off. And then we're gonna test out also the photo capability of the Osmo Action.
RockSteady is basically DJI's version of the super steady shot that's in the GoPro. It's basically electronic stabilization to replicate what a gimbal stabilization would look like. So we're going to see what it looks like with it off, see how much of a difference it makes. Alright, so on the topic of RockSteady, so we just did 2 runs. The RockSteady makes such a big difference and the stabilization is ridiculous on it. We're going relatively fast down the hill. Wouldn't say we're the fastest people down the slope right now, but we're doing pretty well and the RockSteady keeps it nice and stable. In terms of using it, that big rear screen makes such a huge difference, especially for framing. It's really nice to have. It's 2.25 inches, fully touch, so it's really easy to navigate around the menus too. One thing I like about the screen as well is you can lock the screen. So once you lock the screen, no matter where you touch on it, it won't do anything. And to dislock it or unlock it, you basically slide up and you'll be able to utilize all your screen's menus again. So you really won't have a chance for you to screw up at any point in time. Now, battery life on the Osmo Action is pretty standard like any other action camera. It's rated at about 1 hour. And one important feature I forgot to talk about the design that I really like is there is a heat sink at the front of the camera below the Osmo Action logo. And basically this helps keep the camera cool so that you won't have any overheating issues in the camera. Now, if you remember earlier, we were talking about the motion lag when you move the camera and the live view doesn't catch up. We've noticed that at some times it's not too bad and it is basically instant. So I guess this lag issue is just intermittent. We get it sometimes, we don't get it sometimes. So hopefully with the later firmware update, they'll fix that. Speaking of features on the Osmo Action, it does miss out on live streaming, which is what I really liked about the Hero 7 Black, because you could just easily live stream to Facebook, YouTube within the GoPro app, and it was a quick and easy setup. Whereas the Osmo Action missing out on that feature, I feel might be a big deal. And then also on top of that, there is no GPS in the Osmo Action. So for people who want to geotag their photos and video, you won't be able to. And there may be a couple features that might come at a later date for the Osmo Action. And I feel live streaming could just be implemented through a firmware update. So hopefully DJI do something about that in the near future. Woo! Thank you. Thanks. Ah. Some other additional design features about the DJI Osmo Action. So first of all, the frame that it comes with uses the same mount as the GoPro, so you have a large range of accessories to choose from. The microphones that are used in the DJI Osmo Action, there are 2 mics in it to help prioritize where the person is speaking and also to cut out wind as well. And most of this video that we're going to be filming on the DJI Osmo Action will be used with the internal microphone. Like the GoPro Hero 7, the Osmo Action also has voice activation, so you can tell your Osmo Action to take a photo, start recording, stop recording, just by giving it commands. Now, this may not work well in like really high wind environments, but it's nice to have in those times where you can't really see your Osmo Action to get it to start going. With the record button at the top, it does have snapshots. So when you press the record button, Like the GoPro, it will automatically turn on and start recording within 2 seconds, and then once you press the record button again, it will automatically stop recording and power off, which is quite neat if you're really anal about battery life. And lastly, one of the most important features that I haven't mentioned yet is the actual lens on the Osmo Action. So you get quite a wide field of view, which is almost 180 degrees, and you get an aperture value of f2.8, giving you pretty good low light performance. Now you've got an ISO range of 100 to 3200. However, I've been told that on the higher end of the ISO spectrum, towards 1600 and 3200, footage can get a bit noisy, so try and steer away from using those higher ISOs. So my final thoughts on the DJI Osmo Action. There are some minor issues with it, so like the motion lag that we demonstrated earlier, and we also found another bug, and it's that when you're recording and you swap between the back screen to the front screen, the camera actually stops the clip and then restarts the clip, which may get a bit annoying. Now, for DJI's first attempt on an action camera, this is brilliant. They've done pretty well with adding the right features at a good price point, and the RockSteady image stabilization is fantastic. I'm really looking forward to see what DJI come with the possible Mark II of the Osmo Action, and we'll see where they go from there. In the meantime, if you have any questions on the DJI Osmo Action, pop them in the comments below. Make sure to follow us on our Facebook, Instagram, as well as our blog to stay up to date with our latest events and what's going on in store. And as always, make sure to hit the like button and the subscribe button so you don't miss out on our next update as we upload videos weekly.